The Life Story of Aart and Oahspe. Aart Bosman, 2003. Hi all. I would like to tell you all what happened to me before and after I found Oahspe. When I was 5 or 6 years old, my dad always read from the Christian Bible on Sunday. I used to listen very closely. I kind of liked these stories. When he was reading Genesis, I paid very close attention. When it came to Cain and Abel, I always thought something was wrong in that story, or it needed an answer. I thought if all people came from Adam, where did the people come from where Cain went after he slew Abel? That was not just one person. That was a whole country full of people. So I asked my dad. He said, I really do not know. Why don't you ask the minister next time you go to Sunday school? Next time I went, I got the attention of the minister and asked him, just where did all these people come from? Where Cain went after he slew Abel? The minister said, you are a very cheeky boy for asking such question. You cannot come to Sunday school for 3 weeks. I was very angry because I had not expected such an answer and found it very unfair. I ran all the way home and told my dad. My dad said, don't worry, Art, I will get his hide. I will go and tell him that we both will not be coming to church and Sunday school. After that, when Mom went to church, we went fishing. Dad did get the minister. He almost got into a fight with that minister. So every Sunday morning, we walked a mile or more and went fishing in the river. My dad was so happy, sitting on the water, enjoying nature with his son. During the week, we both used to read parts of the Bible, and we found very many things that really needed an answer from someone that knew. But there was not anyone that could answer our many questions. One day when we went fishing on a Sunday, that minister stops my dad. He said, don't you think it is sinful going fishing instead of being in church? My dad answered him, and I never forgot that answer. He said, Minister, when I sit in your church, I almost fall asleep from your dreary way of preaching, or I sit there fantasizing about catching big fish. Now that we are going fishing, sit looking at the lovely creations in nature and think very much about God. So what do you think is a better way of doing it? What is more sinful? The minister got a very red face and walked off. My dad was a hero in my eyes. Then in 1957, I went to a castle in Toronto. Someone had put an ad in the paper saying there was a meeting for people who had seen flying saucers. At that time, I had seen something 4 times, something that sure did not look like airplanes. So I went. It was a very nice meeting with lots of people there. After the coffee, a man came up to me who said his name was Neil Carmichael, that he was leading a group of people called the Brotherhood of Faithists of Toronto, and he wanted to introduce me to some of the members. He asked me if I wanted to sit in on one of their meetings after the rest of the folks had gone home. I said yes, I was interested. He introduced me to a woman named Adele Benedict. She was a nurse in a general hospital. Well, Adele started to tell me about a book called Oahspe with such enthusiasm that I started to become very curious. She told me about all the spaceships mentioned in there, and about the angels coming to Earth and mating with mortal man to create a new race, and about the sinking of a whole continent in the Pacific. I was sold. I asked where I could get such a book. She introduced me to an old man that had a bookstore on Bloor Street. He said he had a very old copy with a black cover. That is all he had at the time. I said I would come the next day and buy it. When I had it in my possession, I found it very difficult to read. I was after all a Dutchman, and the Old English I found hard to read and put it down after the first chapter. Then I came to the book of Sethans, and read about the angels mating with man, and the ions, and drux and all that. Then it dawned on me. Here were all the answers that my dad and I could not find in the Bible. I rushed to the garden farm of my dad the next day, very excited, and showed my dad. He had emigrated to Canada also in 1951. He was just as excited as I was. But I had to tell him all I read, because he could not read it. He only could read the newspaper because of the language. So every time I read a part, one used to drive to the farm and tell him about it. Was he happy? And so was I. So many questions we had, and every one of them answered in Oahspe. Heaven and earth was like an open book to us. I still had trouble reading Oahspe. Then one night, I said a prayer to our Creator for more understanding while reading. Then the next day, it was while reading the book of Fragapati that I saw a film in front of me while reading that story, where the angels were describing what Fragapati and Job were saying and doing. Then I knew somehow that the angels that wrote the words in Oahspe were really looking at a video of all that happened in those days. How else could they describe it the way they did? They saw it happening. Then I really thank the Creator for giving me understanding. The old-style English did not bother me anymore. I went through the book like wildfire. After finishing it, I started all over again. And it seemed I read a different book again. Many more things fell into place. I really tried to tell it all to my dad. My dad said he had been waiting all his life for answers like this. Then I knew whenever we had a chance, or whenever I found someone good enough in languages, it had to be translated into the Dutch language so that people like my dad would be able to read it. Oahspe opened a new world in heaven for me. It all was so logical. No more secrets. Everybody on earth should read it, I thought, and all war would be gone. So now, many more years later, I still think that, and it still has not happened. Then in 1980 I went to England to visit a friend of mine, Don Picard, who was at that time already writing Oahspe-style inspired books. There in Bristol, on a Sunday morning, we went to a spiritualist church with a local woman as a medium. Halfway through the service, this medium all of a sudden got a change in her figure and in her face, and somehow turned into an Indian chief. This chief turned to me and said, "You there from another country, you have a gift that you should be using to help mankind. You have the gift of healing. Would you consider to start using this gift?" And all I could say was, "Yes, I will." He said thank you, and the woman then returned to her old self. This was to us a remarkable experience. I have been trying to use this gift since that time, but to me it still is a wonder that anything happens after a healing prayer. Now that Oahspe has shown me the way of life, and how to live that life, I do not use the book as the Christians use the Bible. We can tell people what we feel and how we live our lives, but I do not try to tell anyone it is so and so, because it is in Oahspe. If anyone wants to read it, I will help him or her all I can, but the right way of life, everyone has to find for him or herself. We are all different in our ways and thoughts, and we all can use Oahspe as a guideline but not as a religion. We are in a way responsible for our fellow man, and to help them all we can, and love them as ourselves, and to try to walk between the pitfalls of life. But we are here as mortals, and have to learn all facets of mortal life. We should not try to dictate how anyone should live. We all have our different paths to walk, and should not be condemned for anything we do differently. Let us try to help anyone that asks for it, no matter how bad they seem. They are all children of the same Creator. That is all for. I have many more stories in my life, but cannot put them all on paper. But ask me, and I will try to answer the questions. Art. I was a member of Aart Bosman's healing list group for over 10 years. I would like to attest that even though there did not seem to be any set prayer blessings, I invented my own. Healing, both run-of-the-mill and miraculous, took place. There were over 1,000 patients on that list during that time period, around 2003 to 2015. During those years, Art would text us with a list of patients, their names, their ailments, and any recent developments for better or worse. 99% got better, complete recovery to my knowledge. Art also would exhort us to pray and bless effectively simply by his sincerity, focus, and loving concern. Robert Bear, 2024. Healing in the Life Force. Aart Bosman. Channeled from a Native American in spirit. 1985. I would like you to bow only to the great power which is in our midst. Power which enables you not only to heal the body but to touch the souls of those who are ready to be awakened to an understanding of the great eternal truths. This is the whole reason for healing. You put right what is wrong with the physical body and you do not touch the spirit, then the healing has failed. But if you touch the spirit, then the healing has succeeded, for you have helped to fan the divine spark which can now grow in illumination and strength. This has always been the purpose behind the work of healing. Healers were born into this world in order to help the people of the Great Spirit, to bring realization of eternal truths and eternal realities to so many of the children who do not know who they are, why they are born into your world, and what it is they must do before they leave it. That is the greatest work of all. If you succeed in awakening one man, then your life on earth has not been in vain. One soul awakened, and that is enough to justify your existence. I rejoice that the work is growing and that more and more are turning their thoughts towards the power of the Spirit. When those we love meet with troubles, we always come to their aid as best we can. When in sickness, then a greater force is applied to help. But you must remember that every effect has a cause. Whatever help is given from our world cannot be interposed between cause and effect. We can help, but we cannot eradicate the effect that is due to the detrimental cause. You are souls expressing yourselves through bodies. There are laws which control the body, and there are laws which control the soul. Due to the result of the operation of the law, something happens to the body. That is, cause and effect. By spirit power we can help, but we cannot eradicate the cause that is due to an operation of the law. We cannot work miracles. We cannot alter the natural sequence. The Great Spirit is always at work, never absent from the universe which divine power has created. Nothing happens without the knowledge of the natural laws which encompass all things. The sick man who is healed, when all other avenues are closed, is the best living testimony to spirit power. He knows that he has been brought face to face with a power greater than anything he has encountered on earth. If this his soul has touched, which is as it should be, and there will be no actual healing until that happens, then he has come into his own and he has begun to fulfill the purpose of his being. There are many people outside your movement and sphere who do not understand the underlying fundamental purpose. The varying phenomena are important in the part they play, but they are only a part designed to direct the attention. You cannot play with toys forever. You must grow from childhood to manhood, and when you grow, you should not require the toys that are given to amuse children and hold their interest. There are many forms of healing, starting from the purely magnetic, which can be physical, to the psychic, which can be non-spiritual, to the highest, which is spiritual. When or if the patient can so attune himself or herself, and the patient is ready, healing can be achieved without any touch of any kind. You can reach the hallway house, by which most of our absent healing is done. Even as I have said, there is the long-distance attainment, in which a healing can be performed without any touch at all, by the attunement between the instrument and the afflicted operating so that healing is instantaneous. The divine power is within every soul. You can tap that power because you have access to the armory of the Spirit within yourself, for the Great Spirit is within you. Just as the physical body, obeying the natural law, will always attempt to heal itself, so you, as a spiritual being, if you follow the natural law, could heal yourself. Health is wholeness of body, mind, and spirit. It is the harmony of the three essential ingredients of man while he is on earth. If any ingredient is not functioning properly, then there is lack of alignment and you have sickness, disease. The way to achieve the harmony is for each aspect of man's expression on earth to become wholly an allotted part. The power of spirit performs its beneficent task and none can gainsay it. Those who seek to deny it, or to thwart it, always have to face the consequences. You are witnessing the same power in miniature that I, responsible for the whole of creation, for the energy residing in the ocean, in the pull of gravitation, in the movements of the planet, in the multitudinous manifestations of growth in human, animal, vegetable, and in every kind of life. Healing is part of the life force. That which gave life to the body is the spirit. Matter has no consciousness apart from spirit which endows it with life. The principle that enables you to live is the same principle which flows through you in the healing to bring those wondrous results to the afflicted, the stricken, and the diseased. Thus, in a way you share with the Great Spirit the responsibility for the universal infinite powers of creation itself. Anybody who seeks to tamper with this must regret it. In times of old, the great sin was against the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the power of the Spirit. As you open up to receive it, align with oneness, so you automatically receive the benediction that now is with it, and which emanates primarily from the author of all being. There is a great world of good to be done in a world that is suffering physically, mentally, and spiritually. A prime objective for our task and our will is to drive out the darkness of the body, mind, and spirit, to bring an understanding of love and purpose to those who are wandering in the mists of confusion, groping to find their way. This is the supreme purpose of all mediumship, to give a message to one whose heart is heavy with sorrow, whose eyes are filled with tears and sadness. All that is good and helpful and important. To give healing to one who is racked with pain, tortured by illness, or plagued by disease. That is what is merciful and very necessary. These are the precursors. They are the means, not the end. The thing most essential is to awaken and touch the dormant soul, so that it comes into its own. If the soul is awakened and begins to understand the purpose of its sojourn on earth, then you have fulfilled your part in the vast scheme of regenerating your world, which is the whole reason for our collaboration. That is the key that unlocks the door. It is more important that each soul shall come into its own, than for its body to be healed, or even that a mourner shall be comforted, because that is truly when the divine soul realizes fully its divine purpose. You have not succeeded until that has been done. If you bent your energies to the speed-up full blossoming of spirit into your own soul, you would then realize that it is the soul that is behind all aspects of mediumship and communication, that which is the most important part. Then you are fulfilling your own destiny, the reason you were born into this world. Spirit power is all life. It has no limitation, except that imposed by the instrument through which it comes. Without the instruments, the power cannot be expressed. These instruments have to broaden and deepen their capacities and concurrently in order to develop their spiritual natures, which determines the amount of the power coming through them. Then there are tremendous forces which can be unleashed through them. There are no limits. The spirit potential has no bounds. Always from our world, elevated beings are at work experimenting with the instruments at their command, striving to obtain the greatest combinations of force, to produce better and quicker results. We have not reached finality in our world. We can only do the best with the material at our disposal. The spread of knowledge of healing takes a long, long time. The whole method by which the power or the spirit works in your world is not to ensure any speedy or miraculous transformation, but to allow that its divine power to work its will on one person, one child, one healing at a time, or to achieve results and establish, as it were, a spiritual bridgehead that will be consolidated and made permanent. It must be that the power of the Spirit, in all its divine manifestations, not only in healing, but in other spheres, spirit power will prove itself, its supremacy, as souls are ready to be helped, either with healing, with teaching, or with demonstrations. But the crucial point is they must be ready to be helped. You break a law and you disturb the alignment of matter, mind, and spirit. Spirit power in healing will work in rays stimulating the divine energy within the individual so that the alignment is once more achieved. Gradually, as more and more of these spiritual reality triumphs are achieved and acknowledged, as more of these spiritual triumphs are broadcast, and knowledge of the spiritual realities are understood, there will be a twofold result. There will be fewer patients, and ever more spirit power to achieve its purpose. It is not part of the plan of the Great Spirit that attempts achieving health should be made by sacrificing any living creature. There are alternative, natural methods by which all diseases can be arrested, helped, and even cured. As long as man ignores natural methods of healing and persists in using animals, who were not placed on earth for that purpose, he will fail to promote health and well-being. True health harms no one and no creatures. The correct harmonizing of mind, spirit, and body, each functioning efficiently as three parts of a whole. You do not achieve this by wreaking cruelty on animals, by taking substances from them which were never intended for human use. You will achieve health when man learns to live in harmony with the natural laws of the universe. Then he will die physically, not from disease, but from old age, because his body has served its purpose and he is ripe spiritually for the next phase of his existence. Serious injuries and accidents may be trials for anyone's spirit or mind. Otherwise, however, whenever you are not healthy, it is because the body armor suffers because neither the mind nor the spirit has found itself. The power of spirit. The life story of Aart and Oahspe. Aart Bosman, 2003. Hi all. I would like to tell you all what happened to me before and after I found Oahspe. When I was 5 or 6 years old, my dad always read from the Christian Bible on Sunday. I used to listen very closely. I kind of liked these stories. When he was reading Genesis, I paid very close attention. When it came to Cain and Abel, I always thought something was wrong in that story, or it needed an answer. I thought if all people came from Adam, where did the people come from where Cain